This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host, Keith Angle, on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talks. College football huddle. How are you all tonight? We are about 60 days, I believe, on Saturday maybe, away from college football. I think the first game is Northwestern. Maybe Northwestern and Notre Dame in Dublin. Not sure about that. I'll have to check the schedule. But good evening, everybody. Welcome, everybody watching live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Will be tomorrow. You'll see us on Roku. We're moving the time of that, by the way, to 12:30 to 2 on Thursdays on Roku. And just so you know, this show, at least until the season starts, will also replay on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the following week at 11:30 a.m. on Roku. And then when the season starts, we'll have to figure that whole replay thing out because, as I told our leader, Mac McGrath on Northeast Streaming Sports, where this show also airs, we thank the network for all they support us with. We can't do 3 replays of a show that aired before the games started on the weekend, or games were played on the weekend. So we'll figure that all out. Also, while we're talking about it, get those Roku devices downloaded because we have a new show that is Roku exclusive, and there's other shows that are going to be Roku exclusive on Northeast Streaming Sports Roku app. The one I'm referring to, though, is Start It Up with myself and Mac McGrath every morning at 6 a.m. So now, I'm up even earlier than I used to be so that I can prepare for that show, prepare for work. And my wife believes I'm nuts, but we're having fun with it. We've got 3 days under our belts, and we've had a lot of fun in the mornings, myself and Mac, recapping all the sports action from the previous day and night. And some of the big stories, obviously, that we'll tackle on further shows and dive into deeper, similar to what we do here on Wednesday evening. So everybody, welcome. Let's see who's with us so far. Excuse me. Gosh, Rick Sherlock, good morning. How are you? I did see the ACC changes. We'll be talking about that tonight. The change in, it'll take place in 2023, no divisions. 3-5-5 scheduling, where they get 3 rivalry opponents, if you will, that they'll play every year, and then they'll rotate the other 5 every year, and then they will also have 4 slots for non-conference games. A lot of Pac-12's already gone there. Big 12's pretty much already there. The scheduling's a little bit different. SEC, the Big Ten are considering it, so there's lots to talk about there. Good evening, Alan. Good to have you here. And Alan will be with us for the full show. How about that? Good to have you, Alan. Glad it worked out for you tonight. I have got a serious problem because I left my water somewhere other than my studio desk. So you'll have to forgive me. It could be a lozenge night and a lot of cough button. So forgive me while I suck on this, excuse me. Anyway, good to have you guys with us. We're going to talk about, as I said, the Big 12. I didn't say that, actually. Big 12's got a new commissioner, and certainly they're thinking outside the box, as some other conferences have recently. Talk more we'll talk more Arch Manning and what a positive effect he's had on Texas in just a handful of days. Mike Leach gets an extension. We'll talk that ACC news that I talked about. We'll take your topics as well and your questions, so don't be afraid to speak up. And there's some other news to kind of talk about as well, and we'll see where we go from here. Oh, gosh. Anyway, where do we want to start tonight? Let's start in the Big 12, actually. Well, you know what, Alan, you're going to be here for a bit. I'm going to start with the ACC because I feel like this is a bigger story. Sorry. And since Rick brought it up first, we'll let him lead it off. So, as I said, the ACC starting in 2023 will drop the divisions, which has already happened in Pac-12. I think it's happening this year, or maybe they're doing it in 2023. I'd have to check that out. But this is a huge change because, you know, these, and I'm sure there was a lot of work done on this, and we'll look at some of these permanent rivalries that each team will have 3 of. And I'm not really sure of the, what the reasoning behind this is. You know, Clemson, for instance, has got Florida State, which makes sense, Georgia Tech and North Carolina State every year. The rest of the conference they'll rotate with. So again, they'll play the rest of the teams in the conference, which would be who? Oh, gosh, that's how old I am. I need my list. So they play Wake Forest. They would play Louisville. They would play Syracuse. They would play Boston College. They would play Miami, Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, Virginia, North Carolina, and Duke every other year. So 5 of them one year, obviously 5 the next. So you see how well I did that math. My Perth education is coming into play already tonight. Let's look at some of the other conference. Where the heck there it is. Is this a good thing or not? Miami. I have an allegiance to Miami. And Alan, you can speak up. I don't think, and Alan mentions they're scrapping, the Pac-12 is scrapping the divisions this year. I thought so. I don't know that they've gone to this 3-5-5 format, though. If they have, in fact, I'll check it before we're done here. I'm not sure I like it, to be honest with you. No, we're going to need to mute that. Hold on a second. Think about this. Miami's rivals, Florida State makes sense. Boston College and Louisville. Now, I guess because it goes back to the Big East thing, but wouldn't you want to see Clemson and Miami every year? If this is about getting the best matchups, which theoretically it's been explained to me that it is, so that these conferences can leverage the best matchups. If I'm the ACC, I think I can do better for Clemson than Florida State, Georgia Tech, and North Carolina State every year. I want to see my best matchup, but then they're going to say, well, that's not fair. Think about when the SEC starts to do the same thing. Auburn and Alabama have to play every year. You'll probably end up, I don't know what you'll end up with. As far as favorites in the SEC or the Big Ten, there's going to be some big choices to make for some of these schools. And I don't know exactly how the determination is being done of how this is done. I'm sure the schools have some kind of input. But I don't know if this is such a good thing or not. Let's see what they talk about in this quick article, see what I can find. So the new scheduling, they say, it preserves many of the league's traditional rivalries with Clemson, Florida State. I get that. Florida State, Miami, NC State, UNC, Virginia, Virginia Tech. Those are all important rivalries to maintain. I agree with that. And they will play every year. But the shakeup does disrupt some other notable rivalries, such as North Carolina State and Wake Forest, who have played every year. while playing in the same division. Now they'll play every other year. And they've developed quite a rivalry since these divisions were put into play. And you got some teams that have, at least today, what would perceive to be easier schedules because of their permanent rivalries than others. Pittsburgh, for instance, has BC, Syracuse, and Virginia Tech, who combined to win just 38% of their Power 5 games during the playoff era. Now, Virginia Tech's got a pretty good history in football. So does Syracuse, quite frankly, until the Big East went away. Again, all the problems it seems. How many of the problems that we talk about weekly and teams that have had issues are because of realignment? I mean, the original wave of realignment that really swept the Big East out of existence, because we talked a lot about, Nebraska going to the Big Ten and Texas A&M coming to the Southeast Conference. But the Big East was hurt worse than anybody because there is no more league. They disbanded and everybody tried to find a safe haven. West Virginia still has a horrible fit with the Big 12, right? How is West Virginia playing in the Big 12? Syracuse. It started with Syracuse and Pittsburgh leaving for actually, I think BC left first to go to the ACC, and then Syracuse and Pittsburgh left very shortly thereafter. And it was a basketball move in their case. I mean, most of these other realignment issues were football related, but the Big East dismantling was because these schools went for a safer haven for their basketball schools. And that didn't work out well for basketball or football. Because look at where these schools have been. Where have they been since this realignment? Syracuse, terrible. Pittsburgh, they won the ACC last year, but they've been mediocre at best most years. BC, same thing. And it's hurt them in basketball too because they don't have any of their natural rivalries. I mean, Pittsburgh and BC are irrelevant now that they're playing in the ACC. Syracuse still has some relevancy, but it has not worked out. UConn gets killed. I mean, UConn had a good football team. 2010, they were in a Fiesta Bowl, folks. Only 12 years ago. Now they don't even have a league. And they tried to go play in the American Conference, and for the sake of their basketball program, they left the American, came back to the Big East in basketball, which left the football team in limbo. And now they're one of the worst Division I football teams out there, FBS teams out there. I mean, they lost to UMass last year. What's the chance? I think we talked about this, right? There's a very good chance when you think about it, Alan. I mean, hopefully not. But Nebraska and Oklahoma went away every year. That was a big rivalry. They'll maintain probably their Red River rivalry with Texas as they're both moving to the SEC. But again, I don't know. SEC goes to this scheduling model. I would assume Texas and Oklahoma would be permanent rivalry games. But let's just assume they go with this 3-5-5 model, right? There's going to be 16 teams in the ACC. So there's going to be 3 teams that I don't know if they can go to 3-5-5 and still be able to play 4 non-conference games because they need to play 15 teams, not 11 or 13 in the ACC's case. No, I'm sorry. They'd only play if they alternated. You're right. Let's see. So it'd be 3. No, it'd be the same thing, I guess. 3-5-5. So it would leave 4 non-conference games. So they'd have plenty of room. But again, we talk about this all the time. The SEC schools and Rick will probably, and Carlos always jump all over me. when it comes to non-conference games in the SEC, they don't go out and schedule Oklahoma State's. Maybe one really good non-conference game, but the other three are going to be cupcakes. So will they maintain that? I hope they do for the sake of that rivalry, for the sake of college football, not losing every traditional rivalry known to man. I mean, God. What do you got here? Sorry. Getting off track here. This is getting me like the Sunday stream of consciousness here. The blow up at Big East hurt a lot. It hurt every school involved. UConn the worst. It hurt them, and it hurt them in multiple sports. I mean, maybe some of the non, I don't know how to say this without offending people, so I'll just say it. The really important sports, I'm sorry, are college football and basketball. Every Big East team got hurt in this blow up. You can't tell me that one of these teams is in a better situation. Maybe Rutgers, believe it or not. I mean, Rutgers at least made it to the Big Ten. I think I saw something here. Let me try to find it real quick. Do I still have that up? I was reading something earlier before we came on. That's not it. That's not it. Thought I might still have it up here. There was a story about how these schools had fared. I guess not. Maybe I'll find it before we're done here. There was an article about how these schools had fared since the Big East blew up, and who really had made out the best. And Rutgers was near the top because, again, they haven't played necessarily very well, but they've probably made out better than most because financially they do better in the Big Ten, and they may be making a comeback. I got a lot of faith in Greg Schiano and what he can do at Rutgers. He's failed in other places, but Greg Schiano turned Rutgers around one time, and he could do it again. Now, they were in the Big East then. I can't read this one, so we're going to put it up. If Georgia and Georgia Tech is a thing, then it shouldn't be a problem to keep Bedlam. Well, they do still play every year, right? I mean, but again, don't forget, they have not changed the scheduling model yet in the SEC. When they do, Georgia can only have 3 traditional rivals. Now, I don't think you're going to take Florida. And Rick, I'd love you to weigh in on this. If this were the case in the SEC, what would Georgia do? Who would be their who would be their 3 permanent rivals? Now, I wouldn't think they're all going to be the hardest games. I mean, that'd be crazy, right? If they took Alabama, LSU, let's just say they took Alabama, LSU, Florida. That'd be stupid. I don't know who makes the decision, the final decision. But again, I'm sure the schools have some input on who they want to play. With Georgia, Florida's got to be one of them. Who else would you say, Rick? I'd almost say Alabama, but I don't think they play Alabama every year now unless it's in the championship game. South Carolina. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Auburn, Florida, Kentucky. It's an interesting question. I hope Rick weighs in here on this before we move on. Sorry, I don't know what's going on in my comments. I can't quite get them all to come up here. So, Rick, if you're posting, I'll see it eventually, hoping things move away. I don't know why I can't see those last couple comments. Hopefully there's nothing there. So anyway, I would be shocked now that the NCAA's made their ruling, and they'd already made a ruling, I guess, that you had to have, first of all, you had to have more than 10 teams to have divisions. For a while, they wouldn't let the Big 12 play a championship game because they didn't have two divisions, because they didn't have enough teams to have two divisions. Now they've changed the landscape altogether, and you don't have to have divisions to play a national championship game. They've given a waiver to the Big 12, and now everybody will be able to partake in this. And hence the scheduling. So, I mean, think about it. I mean, Georgia, Alabama's another one. Who would they go with? And again, I guarantee you Big Ten and SEC will be right behind these two schools. If not in 23, then probably in 24. Who does Alabama make their three permanent rivals? We'll look at the Big Ten in a second. Look at it, and if there's some schools you're interested in. And Alan, I would like to know the formula for scheduling in the Big 12. Maybe I can look it up here quick. Let's see what we got here for comments. There's Rick. Definitely Alabama. That's a good point. Now the Kirby's there. It's a natural rivalry, but that's a tough game to put on your schedule every year. When you're also going to put Florida on there, and Florida. I'm not sure Florida's days as a major power may be coming to an end. They're having some trouble with recruiting. There's already, people up in arms about Billy Napier and the failure of the recruiting this year. So maybe Florida wouldn't be, this huge battle every year for Georgia. But Florida's going to be one of those teams, Rick. I mean, the largest outdoor cocktail party in the country. Alan, let's see who Alan thinks. Georgia, you'd say Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee. Not a bad choice, but I think Rick's right. I do believe that the SEC is going to want Alabama in there every year. Alabama, Georgia every year. Or there's no sense of doing this. Georgia and Georgia Tech was a big rivalry for 100 years before they, well, that's true. Tech's been terrible now for 5 years or so. But they do still play each other, I believe, every year. And I got to believe that rivalry would probably go away. But again, they'll have 4 non-conference games. It all depends on how these schools want to schedule. They want to schedule cupcakes, so they got 4 easy wins and kind of soften their schedule and get to so they aren't all beat up for the wars that they have to fight in conference in the SEC. I know that's everybody's argument about why we get so many cupcakes for Alabama and for Georgia and for the rest. Don't get me wrong, Rick. Big 12 is a round robin. Every team plays each other every year, though. Do they play every year? I don't think they can. Oh, there's only 10 teams, right? They can't do that when there's 14 teams next year, Alan. So they're going to have to change their format too. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 10 teams. So they play they can do that. Simple round robin. You got 10 teams, you can do it. You got 12 teams, you can't do it. You got 14 teams like you're going to have next year, you can't do it. And you're going to be back to 12 eventually. So scheduling will change in the Big 12 as well. Unless you're not going to play everybody every year. You could do that. You could still do a round robin and, whatever. You drop a team. A team could fall from the rotation. But then you might go many, many other years. It's got to change, right? There's no way there's a round robin with 12 teams. You're not going to play 11 conference games. You're certainly not going to play 13 conference games. So you're looking at some kind of change. It can't be a simple round robin after this year. And again, you're going to see it everywhere. And is it a good thing? I don't know. Who the heck knows? But it'll be interesting to keep an eye on. And we can pick this apart. I mean, if you want, if you guys want to look at other teams and who they're, let's look real quick at the Big Ten, just for giggles. Who would the big boys be playing there? Ohio State and Michigan are playing every year. We know that. Michigan State. And so the question is, where does Michigan go with their last game? I got to believe they're going to take one of the weaker sisters every year. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they go with an Iowa. Ohio State's got Michigan. Ohio State might have Wisconsin. I don't know who else Ohio State goes with. I mean, somebody's got to play Rutgers in Maryland, right? So anyway, it's going to be kind of interesting. Excuse me. Not sure we really care enough to get into this any further, but let's oh, by the way, I want to give a shout out to our group of the week, by the way, which is today, the Community of Sports, another group that supports TGI Sports Talk tremendously, allows us to share all our shows. We get good feedback. We get good viewership from there. And this group is run by some really good guys over there. Blaine Ramey is one of the admins. Michael Morales is one of the admins. And Zach Bedwell is one of the admins. So they do a great job over there. And Barry Bob, I think, is possibly one of the admins as well. I'm not sure about that. So, that's our call out tonight, by the way, which I've neglected to do at the top of the show, is the Community of Sports. So check it out. And I like to push these groups because they do well for me, and I want to try to help them increase their membership. So these are all good places to go. I can't see these last comments. I'm trying my best here, Alan. Purdue for Ohio State. That's probably a good call. Yeah, Purdue would be a good one for Ohio State. I just don't know. There's gonna be people upset when these schedules come out, when these schools go this direction, and all the Power Five will be here at some point soon. Let's switch gears a little bit. What do you got here, Alan? You're an admin there too. How come I don't see you on there? Community of Sports. I know you post there all the time. Where are you, Alan? Can't find you. Well, listen, I apologize for not. There you are, Alan Perales. Excuse me, I didn't scroll down far enough. Right above Barry Bob. Alan, I apologize greatly. So hope you let your guys know that you were the highlighted group this week on the on the college football huddle. You guys have done a great job starting to build that community. And I'd love to help you keep doing it. So we've done a call out the last 4 or 5 weeks, and we're going to continue to do this on a weekly basis. So, and I want to try starting to fit it in on some of the other shows too, because I belong to so many groups that I want to make sure everybody gets in, and it'll take forever to do it on one show. Let's. I put this. I put this banner up before this hire was actually official. The Big 12 has made their call, and I'm sure that Alan's going to want to comment here. The Big 12 has made their call on a new commissioner to replace Bob Bowlesby, and it's Brett Yormack, who most recently has been a COO, and previously the co-CEO of Rock Nation Unified, which it's a global licensing division within the agency that, and it's Jay-Z's Rock Nation, by the way. So it's very interesting that he's coming. He's also had affiliations with the Brooklyn Nets at one point. He's a well-rounded guy as far as what he's had his fingers in his career, and I think since last season ended, I want to say, so we got to know we have a new NCAA head coming in with Michael Emmert stepping down. I think 4 of the commissioners have changed, and my screen keeps going on and off here. Jesus. So many problems lately. I tell you, I need an AV guy. Where's Buck Buchanan when I need him? Rick. He was our go-to AV guy. I don't know who you guys had. You're a little ahead of me, so Buck may not have been your guys' guy. But I can't see my screen, but it's flashing right. It's going to give me an epileptic fit here in a second. Anyway, I think there's been at least 3 of the Power 5 conferences have changed commissioners, and 2 of them have gone with people outside of the college football community, let's say, which isn't the norm. And he's got some challenges facing him now with teams leaving, teams coming. He's run entertainment events at Barclays Center for a while as well. Yes. And I think he had some affiliation. Maybe I was wrong. I may have read Barclays and thought it was the Nets, but I thought Adam Silver, I know, spoke very highly of him as well. But he's not the only, as I say, he's not the only Power 5 commissioner with a background outside of college sports. The new Big 12 commissioner had been serving as president of entertainment and sports for MGM Resorts International since 2018. So, this is not, I think these conferences are starting to think outside the box, and it's not just a football focus. It's an entertainment focus. And how do we negotiate for better TV contracts? I mean, I don't know how much more we can go with what the SEC is going to get from ESPN starting in 2024. But it's going to be interesting. Bowlesby, I'm sorry. Bowlesby did a really good job. I think he was appointed in 2012 during that first wave of realignment that we talked about. And he had to deal with some departures like Nebraska and Missouri and Colorado, Texas A&M, all left that year. And he did a good job bringing in TCU. West Virginia, as I said, I think has always been kind of a weird fit there. But they were able to maintain, their status as a Power 5 conference, which was up in the air when he came in, whether they were going to be able to maintain that status, similar to what they had to deal with this coming year, or I should say in the coming years when Oklahoma and Texas left. There was a big question about whether they were going to maintain their status as a Power 5 conference. Did a great job, I think, with bringing in BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF. You could not have done better than that, I don't think. I mean, you weren't going to get Big Ten schools to come there. What we got here? Making his homemade food and snacks. Louis Stellato is the AV guy. Come on. Yes, he was. I think I do remember as a kid that being the case. I'm not trying to disparage the AV clubs of America by any stretch of the imagination. Or I'd have better luck here myself if I had been part of the AV club, probably. It's about building a media outlet. You know what? And that's part of the problem. You know what, Alan? You bring up a great point. And it's fine. I'm sure that this guy will do a tremendous job. But we're more concerned with building media outlets than building football conferences. That's the problem with all of this. This is what's led to all of the realignment. This is what's led to, and if this thing doesn't stop flashing, guys, you're going to see me freak out here in a second. I do not know what's going on, and it's ticking me off like you have no idea. Hold on. All right, let's try that. Excuse me. I've had this problem for 2 days, and it's really ticking me off. And anyway, this is the problem. Let's concentrate on good football. And all we care about is TV contracts. That's why we don't have an expanded playoff, because of TV. That's why we got all this realignment, because of TV. It most likely is part of the reason we have the NIL and the transfer portal that we have now. Maybe I'm blaming too much on media outlets. Yeah. Go into a streaming service. So, Alan, do you want to pay to watch Oklahoma play every week? I mean, already. I mean, most of the big games. Look at the TV landscape is about to change in sports altogether. ESPN's getting the SEC in 2024. They're getting that 3:30 window. I mean, they already have some SEC games, right? But they're getting that 3:30 window that CBS has had forever. My favorite game of the week, even though I'm not a, I don't know. It was about the production, and it was about hearing Vern Lundquist every Saturday at 3:30. It wasn't always about the teams. I didn't even care who played. That's about to change. When ESPN gets it, do not be shocked when some of these games end up on ESPN Plus and you're paying $6.99 a month for it. I know it's not a lot of money. It is to some people. When you're used to this being free, and you may have to pay for ESPN Plus, you may have to pay for Amazon, you may have to Amazon Prime, you may have to pay for Peacock to be able to watch all these games. Some of the Notre Dame games last year ended up on Peacock already. Maybe a Boise State would have been fun to have in the Big 12. They probably would have been. That would have been a good selection, as good as any of the four they brought in my mind. It's a good football school. But I think they got the four teams that they wanted. I mean, they did go again. We already said West Virginia is a weird fit for the Big 12 or the Big 12. UCF is even a bigger oddball as far as region. They're not going to have any regional rivals at all. I mean, it's not going to matter who's going to be their permanent rivals when they got to go to this schedule. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. And listen, UCF, by the way, is a sleeping giant. Do not sleep. When this school gets to this Power 5 conference, by the way, Cincinnati, it goes my ADD again. Cincinnati may be the school from the Big East that came out of that breakup of that league the best. They made their way to the American Conference. They kept Luke Fickell over there. They got Luke Fickell and they kept Luke Fickell. They got themselves into a conference, or not just a conference playoff, but a national playoff. They're getting into a Power 5 conference now. So of all the schools, both basketball and football, that have probably survived the breakup of the Big East, you might rank Cincinnati number one. I feel like there's another. There we go. West Virginia, UCF. Well, that's I see. West Virginia, UCF, TCU, Cincinnati. Makes sense regionally wise, right? But let's just say that's the case. Well, those are pretty good schools. That's tough for since West Virginia. I mean, travel wise, these teams coming in helps West Virginia a lot, I think. But that's true. But Rick, you never had the opportunity to watch every Viking game. College football, pretty much, you could find every game for free somewhere. So if you're an Oklahoma fan, especially the big dogs, right? If you're an Oklahoma fan like Alan, you could find your game on somewhere free every week. Well, when I say free, you've got to pay for cable, right? So I guess even that's not free. The Sunday ticket. See, I won't pay for the Sunday ticket. I will go out and watch my team play. which it might be cheaper to have the Sunday ticket, to be honest with you. But I just won't. I won't pay for the Sunday ticket. College football is on many channels with DirecTV. They hide the charge as regional sports, but that's not a. Listen. So you bring up a good point. I get the ACC network as part of I have DirecTV streaming. So they've got like 15 Big Ten channels. They show the same game on every one. The ACC network is good, and you see some ACC football there, but you don't see the big games there. But what I'm talking about is outside of your main streaming service, you're going to have to do things like you pay for the Sunday ticket, Rick. You're going to have to pay for even more, whether it's professional football, college football, baseball. Look at baseball. Friday nights, who knows where to find the games? Apple's got games. Peacock's got games. By the way, the production and the announcing is horrendous. So if you're not watching it, I don't recommend you do. And that's the way college football is going. That's the way college basketball will go. You're going to pay. You're going to get nickel and dime. Everything's going to be a la carte. Now, if you only want Oklahoma, you only got to pay for whatever streaming service they're on. Hopefully, they'll be on the same one all the time, but it's unlikely. Yeah, no, I know. It's so I pay $60 a week instead of what's $60 a week? What's the package cost now, Rick? 60 times we count the playoffs, say 20 weeks, $1,200 a year I pay. Who's the idiot? Who's the idiot in this picture? That's a rhetorical question too, by the way, Rick. I know, Alan, you got something up here. Hold on. The only reason I get to watch every Cowboy, that's right. I thought you were an Oklahoma fan. Why do I think Oklahoma State? Why am I thinking Oklahoma? No, but you know what though? You know what? And I guess I gotta pay. So I have ESPN Plus. I mean, I can find any game I want to watch. If you're a Kansas fan, I could probably go find Kansas almost every game they play. But I would have to watch some of those on ESPN Plus, most likely. 400. All right. Well, then I wouldn't have as much fun though, because I'd be home. I'd be stuck home and not able to see my Sunday football boys every Sunday for 20 weeks a year. My wife loves that. It'll depend on the schedule. Like the Nebraska game is going to be noon game on Fox this year. Again, this year. Let's not forget, all of these networks are going to some paid version of their sports casting. ABC's got ESPN, ESPN Plus. CBS has CBS Sports. NBC's got Peacock and NBC Sports Network. All extra costs. Let's just say you had an antenna. Listen, I still watch a lot of antenna TV, guys. I've got obviously streaming services up the yazoo, but I've got a digital antenna that I get 50 channels on. 50 channels. Now, for sports, it's no good. I've got 6, 10, and 13 and Fox. So NBC, ABC, sorry for you guys who aren't up on the channel designations. I got ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox. That's all I got for sports if I want to watch off my digital TV. And there's people out there, if they're off the grid, that's all they have. And there's going to come a time, not in the too distant future, that you're not going to be watching much sports on the major networks. You're just not. We're getting very close to that now. Hang on. What do you got here? Oh, you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry about that. It's the college football huddle. I thought you were talking about Oklahoma State. We'd like to see less Cowboys up here, Alan. Just an FYI. That's all I got, too. Over the air digital antenna. So your viewing options are limited, Alan, and you're the guy they're going to hurt, right? You're not, well, let's say you're going to, your team's moving to the SEC. ESPN is going to have exclusive rights to the SEC games starting in 2024. So that game that you get to watch every 3:30 on CBS on your digital antenna, you're not going to get anymore. Or not the SEC game anyway. CBS will probably have football, but it will not be the SEC. You're the guy they're going to hurt. Wasn't my intention to talk that long about that topic, but that's fine. Good stuff. What do you got? We've been stuck getting the Browns games because of Baker Mayfield. That stinks. Now we might get Seahawks games. John DeLon is here tonight. John, I'm the same. We got rabbit ears. Rabbit ears still work. I paid $24 for a digital antenna. Yeah, John, if you missed it. It's just a little square pad, kind of. It's about this big. That's it. About that big. I put it on the back of my TV. Now I'm in a good location here in East Greenbush, where I really have a good line of sight to the four main broadcasting stations in the local area. So there's 50 channels, counting PBS, and they're not all great channels. There's some home shopping stuff on there. There's a lot of old school TV, which I watch a lot of, but you also get all the major networks. And believe me, I'll tell you what, the picture on my digital antenna for the the networks better than what I get on the streaming. By far, the picture's pristine. It's good to have that backup, though, right, John? There's a lot of times I've had to use that. Yeah, it's a flat. So you're probably talking about the same thing I'm talking about, right? And mine's black and kind of this size, pretty much. Hey, I got it on right now. I got the game. I didn't put the mute on, by the way. You guys are probably listening to the Game Show Network in the background. Buzzer TV, sorry. 70s game shows on all day long. Could be worse. You could have your choice of Jets, Giants in your area. We get a lot of Patriots and Bills, though, now, too. John DeLon, agree, but a lot of SEC football games are moving to the SEC network soon. Good point. But again, extra charge on most cable services, right? You're not getting that with your basic cable or your basic streaming package, right? I talked about before that I've got DirecTV streaming. And the basic package wouldn't give me a whole lot more than what I get with my antenna. And there's always one, and so you end up with the top package to be able to get, because there's always one channel you need that's in a package above. SEC network, all those regional sports networks are all in the upper echelon. Plus, I play for ESPN Plus so that I can watch the games that get stuck on there that I need to watch sometimes. I have to have the ACC network to watch a lot of the Miami games. It's tough. John, I'm going to ask you a question. I already had this topic come up, but since you just came in late, I want to back it up one. We were talking earlier about the ACC dropping the divisions, going to the 3-5-5 format of scheduling, and it's inevitable that the SEC and the Big Ten will go there as well. The Big 12 will have to go there when they go to more than 10 teams next year. Pac-12's already there. So I posed it to our Georgia fan, and Alan also answered for a couple of teams in the SEC. You're an LSU fan. Who would be those three permanent rivalries for LSU that they'd want every year? You're not going to get everybody you want. Everybody wants Alabama on their schedule every year. Not everybody can have them. I didn't look at LSU, so I want to back up to this topic for a second. I'm going to move on to Arch Manning in a second. But John, I'll give you who I think. And again, I don't know how these aren't made just with the school saying, I want this school, this school, this school. I think LSU goes with Florida. I think LSU goes with Georgia. I don't know if that works. I might not have picked LSU for Georgia. I might be double dipping. And who else? Ole Miss. I don't know. I really don't know. But my point is you've got to pay for it. And I will tell you right now, when ESPN, John, whether you know it or not, I think you're smart enough to know this. When ESPN takes over this total package of the SEC, including that 3:30 window that's on CBS now, you're not getting that game on the SEC network. You're not getting the major. The SEC network's a good network, and it's got some good games. And I'm sure you get to see your LSU Tigers on there. But you're not going to see the major. You're not going to see Alabama, Georgia. You're not going to see LSU, Alabama on the SEC network. It's going to be on ESPN. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into the NFL here, guys. Oklahoma is saying it'll be, let's see, you're saying Texas, definitely will be Texas. Texas is definitely going to be on Oklahoma's schedule. A&M maybe. And that would make sense. Maybe Arkansas might swap out A&M or Missouri. That wouldn't be a bad pick. Mini Big 12. That keeps them together. One will be Texas A&M. That's a smart one because the league office has been pushing that game as a rivalry since it started. Ole Miss for sure. I think Florida, right? I like that group. I think Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Florida is probably a good pick for LSU. Now, that means you get to see Alabama every other year, which you probably do now, don't you? Let's see, which conference. I don't remember which. No, you see them every year now. So that means you would play Alabama just every other year. I'm curious, are you okay with that, John? Are you okay seeing Alabama just every other year in this 3-5-5 setup? Because that's what you'd be looking at. What's Rick got here? So before I move on, I'll wait for John to answer that question. Oh, we got a delay. I'm going to talk to about that very quickly here, John. Rick, that's what we're moving on to next. Just want to get John's. So again, this whole scheduling thing is going to be, I don't know. I haven't decided yet whether it's a really good thing or it stinks. I think we got John's answer here. I think LSU would prefer Florida, but they'll get Mississippi State. And I'm going to move on, John, but you can put up a comment. I'm curious whether you would be upset not seeing Alabama. Maybe you won't be because, obviously you don't beat them regularly. Sorry. You don't beat Alabama regularly, but so would you be upset not having them as a fan getting to see that type of marquee game? Forget about who wins and loses. Texas gets all those prospects just to lose to Kansas in their final year in the Big 12. That, you know what? That's probably not happening. So the question basically, John, with this 3-5-5 format of scheduling, you get your three permanent rivalries, which you just picked. I'll give you Ole Miss, Florida, and whoever else we said. At Texas A&M. That means, by the way, you're going to get Alabama every other year. And forget about who wins or loses. It's a marquee matchup. Do you care about that? The main thing that would make him upset is if we got Bama and UAG in the same year. Well, that's a good point. That could, I don't know again how they'll do this. That would be unfair to most teams, but somebody's going to get them in the same year, right? And maybe, that's got to be rotated as well. So anyway, there's a lot of things to figure out in this scheduling dilemma. So. Okay, anyway, let's move on to our next topic. I want to get in because I spent a lot of time on that. I did want to talk about Arch. Whoa, who the heck put that up there? Want to talk about Arch Manning. I want to talk about the Arch Manning effect. I got to be able to type. I didn't even have an A in Arch. Wow, it's getting worse, guys. Now I need a typer. Let's try this. All right, Arch Manning, as we know, made his choice of Texas. Big news, not news today, but big news since we were last on the air. Chooses Texas. We knew Arch Manning was going to have a huge effect on a lot of things. I've talked about it on the weekend shows that I've done all weekend when I was on with Jack and Mac on Saturday or Sunday. I think Carlos and I talked about it a little bit and on Are You Serious? Arch Manning going to Texas is huge. The biggest effect, and I didn't think it would happen this fast. Since Saturday when this news was broke, or Friday when this news was broken, seven of the top prospects, top 100 prospects, 2023 recruiting class have committed to Texas, including two of the top wide receivers, which Rick just talked about. One was just today to make it to bring in that seventh person. Who was it? Cook. Jonte Cook II. This has had an effect faster than I thought. I knew it would have a huge effect on the recruiting and a boon to Steve Scarsazian. By the way, Steve oh boy, why can't I even say this name? I usually don't have that much problem with this name. Sarkisian. Why do I want to put a T in there all of a sudden? He's at least saved his job. If they have a bad year this year, which it could be an iffy year for Texas this year, he's not going to lose his job because they're not going to take a risk at Arch Manning putting himself in the transfer portal before he ever steps foot on campus, or putting this recruiting class at risk. Now, there's no guarantees any of these kids ever end up at Texas because, you know, these early commitments don't always stay. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any facts to back this up, but I'll bet you 30% of them, maybe higher, never make it to the campus they commit to. But this is a huge boon for Texas in their recruiting efforts. Not to mention, you know, the boon that it gives Steve Sarkisian and his chances to remain the Texas coach, even if he has a bad year this year. There's no way that kid can live up to the hype. He's sure he can. I mean, what do you think he has to do? You think he needs to win 3 national championships to live up to hype? All he's got to do is win a national championship at Texas, and he's done his job. All he's got to probably do is get them in the playoff, and he's met the hype. I think this is a smart move. I talked about this a few times. If I was Arch Manning and I wanted the best story, because I like stories. I follow college football. Yes, I root for the Hurricanes because of marriage and love and marriage. And I enjoy it. I enjoy the games. But I like good stories. There'd be no better story than Arch Manning going to Ole Miss. But Arch Manning wants to go his own way, and Arch Manning's going to set his own course, and his job will be to get Texas back on the college football map. They've been off that map since 2004-05, when they won a national championship with Mac Brown and Vince Young. Even before that, they were off the map for 2 decades. Arch Manning doesn't have to do much except go there and get Texas into a playoff. He's going to be a high draft pick in 3 years. So, you know, again, can he live up to the hype? He doesn't need to. You know what, John? We have no way to know. There's no way to even say that. There's no way I'm going to tell you that Arch Manning's the best quarterback in this class. I'll tell you he's the most highly sought after, and we know that, right? I mean, I could sit here and tell you that the kid Miami just picked up. I'm trying to think of his name now. Bear with me a second, and I will get it for you. Because there's a little bit of controversy surrounding his selection too. I can't find his name now. If damn it, I talked about it the other day on the Wake Up Show. Start It Up Show. Don't forget the Start It Up Show. Roku only, 6 a.m. every morning, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Myself and Mac McGrath. I don't have it. Anyway, this 5-star recruit was going to go to Florida. Now he's going to Miami. Big deal with the Florida people. I could say he's going to be better than Arch Manning. Who knows? Nobody knows until these kids step on the field. So, I mean, I respect your opinion to say that, but I don't think there's any way you can say with any authority, or I can say, or anybody can say, that there's 3 to 5 quarterbacks in Arch Manning's recruiting class that are better than Arch. I don't know. There could be 20. There could be none. He could be the best. We just don't know. That's the thing. It's a crapshoot. You don't know what these guys will do till they get on the field. Yeah, I don't really care. You know, I'm so tired of talking NIL. Every time I turn around, there's another scandal. There's one now, potentially another one brewing at Miami. I can tell you that if you're going to tell me that the NIL deal brought him to Texas, I'm going to say 100% that I think you're wrong. I'm not saying you're saying that, John. But if we are saying that, I think you're wrong. Now, the rumors are that the kid who went to Miami, I guess I can find his damn name. There it is, right in front of me. Jaden Rashada, 22 overall rated prospect in a 2023 class. Supposedly, John Ruiz, this very influential booster at Miami, offered him $95 million in NIL money. Had something to do with him changing his mind from Florida to Miami. That would be against the rules. God, I want to get NIL every week. You don't know that either, John. You don't know that. Probably by the time they get there, they're going to have a new scheduling formula. And if you don't think Texas is going to be twice as good as they are now, or better, 2 years from now, they're still not going there till 2025. Maybe that'll change. But if that's the case, then Arch Manning will be in his sophomore year, or assuming he plays and doesn't redshirt or anything, he'll be in his junior year. Or will he be a sophomore? I can't do the math. I guess he'd be a sophomore. 23? No, he's playing 23, 24, 25. Yeah, he'd be a junior. And they just got 7 top 100 recruits to recruit to commit in the last 4 days. If they all show up. Yeah. NIL. What do you got there, John? John, I'm totally saying that Arch is going to Texas because no one except maybe the Ags will outbid them. See, I don't believe that. Again, and I'm the most, and I may be the most cynical guy about the NIL, and I said what a slippery slope it was in the beginning. I don't think Arch Manning's in Texas because of the money. Arch Manning could have got NIL money wherever he wanted to go. He would have got the money. Plus, he's going to make a boatload of money at the next level. I don't think for a second he chose Texas because they outbid Alabama and they outbid Georgia and they outbid LSU. Now, don't have sour grapes, John, just because he's not wearing, the purple and gold down there. The problem is that Texas soft culture thing's so bad there. Well, it's possible. You may be right. Again, I'm not saying Steve Sarkisian is, Darryl Royal. I'm not even saying he's Mac Brown. But he's got the building blocks. And don't forget where Texas was, which is nowhere. Same soft culture you're talking about. When Vince Young came in there in 2002, I think, and Mac Brown was suddenly one of the greatest coaches in college football. So it can happen. Cultures change very quickly when you get a superstar on campus and other superstars start finding their way into the program. And now, as you mentioned, there's other ways to get them there. Listen, I will not tell you that these other guys all came here to play for Arch Manning. And NIL money didn't have anything to do with it. Probably did. When Ryan Day says he needs $13 million next year in NIL money to keep his team together, you know the freaking train is off the tracks. Oh, yeah. I know you got probably 4 quarterbacks better than Arch there, John. I really don't know how we can say that. Arch Manning may be a complete bust. Or he may be the greatest thing ever to hit college football or basketball. I don't know. But there's no way for us to say here with any authority, with any definitive, there's no definitive way to answer that question until we see him play. Just saying. Oh, I got a Kansas thing up there. You already got your quarterback of the future, and then again, Arch won't live up to the hype. Again, John, that's a wonderful opinion to have. You just don't have any facts to back it up other than your own intuition. Right? Let's at least admit to that. I'm telling you, I think Arch will be one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time. He will turn that program in Texas around, and he will restore the luster that the Longhorns had seen for many, many decades prior to the last couple. I don't have anything. That's an opinion with no fact to back it up. None. We're entitled to say it. And, that's why they play the games, and that's why we get to have these shows and have good debates about it because sorry, what do you got up here, Alan? I'll go back to John in a second. Kansas had 2 wins in the Big 12 in the last few years. Both came against Texas. It's irrelevant. That is irrelevant to what I'm talking about. This team, in a week's time, has improved itself for 2023 and beyond better than any college program in the country probably has done in the last 6 months. Guarantee you, right today, they've got the number 1 recruiting class in 2023 off these last 2 days. And I knew you were talking about Texas. John could tell me what the problem is in Texas, and you probably don't want me to get into it because it's kind of political. You can touch on it. We won't dive deep into it. If you want to make a quick general comment, John, I'm all right. Look at politics and sports are interchangeable today. This isn't. I don't like to dive into the politics of sports. I have to now and again. I have my own very strong opinions. I just try to keep them out of here. But when you can't, and it's relevant to the conversation. This isn't gratuitous. You're not just trying to change the subject. And I like the fact that you're warning me. So you can make your comment. Just, I may or may not agree with you. So I'd love to hear it. And I won't get into a long political debate because that's not what we do here. But you're entitled to put up what you want. I don't censor anybody on this show. I will cut off conversations if I think they're going the wrong way. I had to do it. Actually, it's funny. I had to do it on a post that I put up. I was out, for a couple of beers and a bite to eat with my wife Saturday, put a picture of her and a beer up, and all of a sudden I got two guys talking about politics. For too many California transplants. Well, that is, I get it. I think I get the picture you're trying to paint, and maybe that's possible. Living in New York, I wish there were less New Yorkers here. Downstate New Yorkers. What do you got here? That's what I'm saying. Texas has had a lot of hype built up. Again, Alan, you need to refresh me. When there was huge hype, when was there last huge hype around this Texas team? Even with Steve Sarkisian coming in here, there was no hype that this team was going to win a national championship. I don't even think many people picked him to win the Big 12. Not in the last decade. They've been a nightmare out there. Tom Herman wrecked what was already wrecked. So I'm missing I understand I'm not in your area, so I don't know what goes on in the papers and the press there. But I don't see any. I haven't seen any great jumping on the bandwagon for Texas to be one of the best teams in the country the last bunch of years. John Percy knows 3 people who have moved out of Austin or the surrounding area because of Californians. Another guy about to move out of Nashville for the same reason. Well, what's going to happen? Is he going to move out of Nashville if I move there from New York? Because I'm thinking about moving to Nashville when I retire, or the area. And believe me, I'm not. I'm pretty sure I get where you're going, and I'm not that new. I'm not a New York City guy. Upstate is very is not the shade that you're thinking. I think, John, if I'm reading what you're putting down here. If I'm picking up what you're putting down. So anyway, we can continue this conversation. I'm not going to try to cut it off. It's, this is fine. You'd probably move to Atlanta. Yankees love Atlanta. No, I don't want to go to Atlanta. I got no use for Atlanta, Florida. Well, maybe Florida, but it's too hot, Florida, for me. It's too muggy. I don't like snakes. I don't like bugs. I do like the politics better than I like them here. I'll just say that. What else do we want to talk about here today? John, we can continue this. You don't have to stop. I'm going to try to move on to a couple things. Since we're talking about the SEC, we'll talk about Mike Leach gets an extension. 2 years, additional 2 years, and his salary hike to $5.5 million. Mike Leach has done his usual job, I guess. He's got this team headed in the right direction. They're fun to watch. They score a lot of points. They give up a lot of points. And Mike Leach will probably burn his bridges here in another year or two, which has been his MO. He turned Texas Tech into really a powerhouse in the the Big 12 for a couple of years, 3 years. Wore out his welcome. Went and turned Washington State around. Wore out his welcome. What do we got here? Atlanta comment's funny. I know some good people in Atlanta, but I don't want to live in Atlanta. Locally, there has been, well, I believe that. When they beat Notre Dame, it was treated like a rebirth of sorts. I'm talking about not regional hype. Every region has their hype, right? We're hyping up Miami now, but not to the fact that I think they're going to be in a playoff this coming year. Maybe they will be in the coming years. I don't know. But nationally and on a local level, any fan base is going to get worked up when they have a big victory. They bring in a big name coach. They bring in a big name recruit. But I don't think on a national level, Texas has been hyped that much. Every year in the Big 12, there's been speculation in Texas until they lose to a team like TCU and Kansas. Well, it probably says more about the league than it says about Kansas or Texas. I need a tennis racket to kill mosquitoes in Florida. I gotta tell you, I hate the bugs, and I hate the snakes even worse. And the alligators. I gotta tell you, same thing in South Carolina. When I play golf in South Carolina, if I play golf in Florida, if I hit the ball off the fairway, I ain't looking for it because I'm either gonna come face to face with a snake or an alligator or something that I shouldn't have to deal with when I'm on a golf course. Leach has a losing record in the SEC. Agreed, but this team. Look, you can't. I don't think you can argue the fact that he's got that team heading in the right direction from where they were when he got there. This is not a school that's been a year in and year out powerhouse by any means. They've had some good teams. They had some good teams under Dan Mullen. They were only going to get so far. They had some good teams under Jackie Sherrill back in the day. They had some good teams under who's the coach, the Alabama assistant that went up there. They had a couple good teams, but again, they can't continue and stay consistent. John says, you can honestly tolerate most Yankees if there's not too many of them. Most Californians make my skin crawl. Oh gosh. I'm not laughing at you, John. I think it's funny. I get it. I gotta tell you, I mean, if you're from the South, the deep South, and you get a bunch of people from California moving in your neighborhood, I got to believe that it's quite a culture shock for both parties. I got to believe. Alan actually lived near Lubbock when Mike Leach had that Texas Tech team in the top 5. The death glares I got from Red Raider fans when Oklahoma blew them out when they were number 2 was hilarious. Oh, good stuff, guys. What else we got here tonight? You guys, we got 13 minutes left, or 12 minutes before I got to start wrapping it up. It was a good show tonight. I got a couple. If you guys don't have any, I got a couple things that we'll chat about that I've seen questions about. Let's take a. I thought I had a couple. Let's see what we got. You talked about Arch Manning. One of the questions I saw come up on some of the message boards around. And the mailbag is some of the stuff I get to mind, but they're also from bulletin boards I see questions about. One of the questions is interesting from an SEC perspective. We got quite an SEC slant tonight, so maybe I'm becoming an SEC elitist as well. I don't know. Is Florida simply no longer capable of recruiting at the level necessary to even think about competing for championships? And I know that the Florida fans have been freaking out over Billy Napier's lack of, having a decent recruiting class. I think he lost his Jaden Rashada, as I said, to Miami after they basically had him locked up. He lost a 5-star defensive back that Florida was perceived to be the front runner for, and AJ Harris. Only he committed to Rick's Georgia team. I mean, right now, I think if this were final, the 2023 recruiting class were final, this would be pretty bad. But National Signing Day is 6 months away. It's only June. As we talked about, by June, by National Signing Day, which is 6 months from now, how many of these kids that we're talking about in the 2023 class with early commitments are going to have, committed and recommitted somewhere else? Decommitted and recommitted somewhere else in the next 6 months. coaches will have been hired and fired before then. So these early recruits, and including Arch Manning and the bunch of guys that have gone to Texas that I talked about, who knows if any of them ever stepped foot on campus? We don't know. What else we got here? John came in at the right time. Let's see. What do you got here, John? Trying to get your comment. I can't seem to stay on it. There we go. State is more entertaining under Leach for sure. Every team's more entertaining under. They don't necessarily win and lose big games or win a lot of big games. They lose more than they win. But if you're talking about heading in the right direction to challenge for a conference title, I'm not saying they're going to challenge. That's not what I'm going at all. I just mean improved in the context of Mississippi State and what they have historically been, especially just before he got there. And who's the guy that I'm thinking of? I've told you a couple coaches that had some success there. Jackie Sherrill, Dan Mullen, and who's the guy who was the I think he was an Alabama assistant who went to I think Mississippi State was his alma mater. Can't think of his name now. Seeing college kids from California and Florida react to snow for the first time is fun to watch. I could go somewhere there and I won't. You want to subscribe to the SEC network so you can watch games like Mississippi. I do have the SEC network, by the way, John. I watch Paul Feinbaum nearly every afternoon. I have him on mute while I'm working here in my home office. Turn them up when I get an opportunity for a few minutes. And I watch the SEC games that are on there often. So it's a good network. I like it a lot. So and that doesn't necessarily make me an SEC elitist. It just makes me a college football fan. I've got some major pixelation going on behind me here. I don't know what's going on. I think my light fell down while we were talking here. Rick, your wife couldn't get out of the car and take a picture of the gator on the side of the road while in Florida. Wouldn't get out. Sorry. I don't understand her hesitation. Well, I think, if you ask nicely and then, gave her a little push, I think that's quite fine. Thank you. Sylvester Kroom. Yes. I don't know if it's Crooms or Kroom. But yes, I think he had a couple of decent years at Mississippi State. And if I'm not mistaken, he might have got run out of town under some strange circumstances when he didn't win. And he may have been, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, he was the first black coach in the SEC, black head coach in the SEC. I'm almost positive of that. I could be wrong, but you would know better than I. And Paul Feinbaum is a very, very polarizing figure, isn't he? I watch because I like to see some of his little what his hot takes are going to be and what some of the people you got to say there are some interesting folks that call in on that show. It's very funny. So I watch it for the entertainment value more than anything. So, oh gosh, what else? We got a couple minutes. Let's see if I can find one more interesting. There was a question on one of these boards about the college football playoff, and it expanded to 8 or 12. How often do you think a non-top 4 seed would win the entire thing? Would it be like basketball or even baseball? This year in baseball, Ole Miss was basically the last team to get in a tournament, and they end up winning the whole thing. Now, you would think in football that probably won't happen. But there will be teams, and when they come from outside the top 4 seeds, it's probably going to be an Alabama or a Georgia or an LSU or somebody who was, second best in their conference. And again, that's going under the premise that when they expand, you will have to have won your conference to be one of those top 4 seeds. Sherm wasn't fast first black head coach in the SEC. I thought so. Every once in a while, I'm like a blind squirrel, I get an acorn now and again, John. I mostly hate Legend, Joe from Red Bay. I tell you, there are some interesting guys that call in, and I got to laugh. Sometimes I wonder, John, I'm listening, and I wonder if it's a put on, right? Because some of these guys just can't be the real deal. Big 12 prediction from Allen, very early. Oklahoma, shocking. Baylor, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Texas, Texas Tech, TCU, Kansas, West Virginia. Kansas State, West Virginia, Kansas. You know what I'm going to do here? You're not going to like it. I'm going to flip-flop Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, and I'll give it a rest. Although I think TCU, if I'm going to give you a sleeper here, by the way, watch out for Texas Tech making some noise in the conference. Watch out for Texas Tech. There's another Paul Feinbaum hater. Outside top 4 winner. Maybe. No, but think about it, Jen. I think you could see more than that because remember, outside the top 4, you're going to have, if Alabama, I guess you'd have to look at, some of the teams that were in the playoff the last 4 years, but wouldn't have been top 4 seeds because they didn't win their conference. Well, maybe that's not. Yeah, like Alabama this year. Alabama didn't win, I know, but they had a chance. You're going to have somebody every year that's second best in their conference in the Power Fives, right? Maybe doesn't win maybe doesn't win their conference championship game, but still makes the playoff. And Ohio State loses the Big Ten championship. Alabama, LSU, as I said before, they don't get a top 4 ranking, but they could be a top 4 team in the country. Or have the ability to certainly win. So I think it'll happen more than you think, just because you're going to have really good teams in that 5, 6, 7, and 8 spot, I think, depending on how it's set up. Yeah, good. I'm glad to know, because if not, it would be debatable how far south I would consider moving. I would flip Oklahoma with anyone. It would be Baylor. No, I just look at I got this thing for Oklahoma State, and I think Mike Gundy's just one of the most underrated coaches in the country, by the way. And I do think this team has a pretty good chance. I think their offense is going to be much better this year, and I think they bring back a lot of the defense. So I think there's going to be a good chance for them to finish this off maybe this year. Let's try to tie up the West Point. It's funny, Rick. I got the because my guys disappeared on me for tickets. So I was looking at tickets just today. I think I posted in our little group chat that we're looking at either Georgia State on October 1st or Texas San Antonio on September 10th. And we can get tickets. I need to know how many guys are going. I'll get the tickets. I think they're $50 a piece. That's it. $54. Well, now they're starting to go up a little bit. But I can get in 11. That's 121. We'd be upstairs. But again, there's not really bad seats there. Now I'm not seeing these $54 tickets. Well, we'll talk about it. Now the tickets are starting to go up a little bit. I should have done this when I looked at it yesterday. All right, we got to get out of here pretty quick. Keep in mind the top 4 will get a bye, and the rest will have to play an extra game. That's a very good point. Again, it depends on how many teams there are, right? If there's 8 teams, I don't think there'll be any byes. If there's 12, there certainly will be. I still am in favor of 16 no byes. New defensive coordinator for Oklahoma State. And you still have Spencer Sanders at quarterback. I think Spencer Sanders may be one of the most improved players in the country coming up this year. Watch out. And, John, let me get your comment in here last, and we got to get out of here. Do you know what the point of a 12-team playoff is? To sell. We want a playoff game, false hope fan base. I get it. I just like it. I like to see teams get a chance. I like to root for underdogs. We'll see what happens, John. It's all conjecture. Guys, thanks for tuning in. You guys have done a great job tonight with the comments. We'll see you next week right here with more college football. Next week we may have Larry Sorensen back in. Good stuff, John. Thanks for popping in. Rick, Alan, thank you. All of you that see this later on, thanks a lot. All the good fun you share. Keith Engel, TGI Sports, College Football Huddle, right here on Northeast Streaming Sports.